From a celebrated war hero secretly selling out his own country, to a president so drunk on power he bugged his own office and still couldn't stop himself, to a senator who terrorized an entire nation using nothing but a list that didn't even exist. These are the times America was almost destroyed from within. And spoiler, the most dangerous enemies America ever faced didn't speak a foreign language. They spoke perfect English, wore American suits, and shook American hands. But first, let's talk about the one man whose betrayal still makes American historians physically uncomfortable. Benedict Arnold. See, Arnold wasn't some villain from the start. He was actually one of George Washington's most trusted and talented generals. The man was brilliant on the battlefield, winning critical fights that kept the American Revolution alive. Washington trusted him completely. America loved him. But Arnold had a problem. He felt disrespected, passed over for promotions, criticized by politicians, and drowning in personal debt. Arnold made a decision that would haunt American history forever. He secretly contacted the British and offered to hand over the fort at West Point, one of the most strategically critical positions in the entire war. If the British took West Point, the revolution could have collapsed entirely. America might have never existed. The plot was discovered at the last second. His British contact, Major John Andre, was captured carrying the plans. Arnold fled to the British side just hours before he could be arrested. Washington was devastated. The man he called a brother had nearly handed America back to the crown before she even had a chance to breathe. Speaking of Americans turning against their own country, the next story doesn't involve a battlefield. It involves a president, a hotel, and the dumbest cover-up in political history. In 1972, Richard Nixon was already winning the presidential election by a landslide. He didn't need to cheat. He was going to win anyway. But Nixon was paranoid, almost pathologically so. He ordered a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters inside the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. His own team got caught trying to bug the phones of his political opponents. And here's the kicker. Nixon didn't even need the information. He won the election in one of the biggest landslides in American history. But instead of coming clean, he spent the next 2 years lying, covering up, and secretly recording conversations that proved his own guilt. When those tapes were finally handed over, they destroyed him. The man who had just won 49 out of 50 states resigned in absolute disgrace. The most powerful man in the world, brought down entirely by his own paranoia. But if Nixon's self-destruction was almost comical, what Senator Joseph McCarthy did next was genuinely terrifying. In the early 1950s, McCarthy stood up in front of America and claimed he had a list of known communist spies secretly working inside the US government. The list changed numbers every time he mentioned it. First it was 205 spies, then 57, then 1. Nobody ever saw the actual list. It probably never existed, but that didn't matter. Because fear doesn't need facts. McCarthy launched a witch hunt that destroyed thousands of innocent American lives. Actors, professors, soldiers, government workers. Anyone McCarthy pointed at was finished. Careers evaporated overnight. Families were torn apart. People were blacklisted simply for knowing the wrong person at the wrong time. America, the land of free speech, had somehow let one man with a fake list turn the entire country against itself. And just when you think it couldn't get more dangerous than a senator with an imaginary list, the next story involves an organization so deeply embedded inside American institutions that even the people supposed to stop them were members. The Ku Klux Klan didn't just burn crosses in fields. At its peak in the 1920s, it had completely infiltrated American politics, law enforcement, and government from the inside. Governors, judges, congressmen, police chiefs, all card-carrying members. In some states, the Klan essentially was the government. But perhaps the most devastating example of America being destroyed from within didn't come from a traitor, a paranoid president, or a senator with a fake list. It came from a failure so enormous, so preventable, that it still haunts intelligence agencies to this day. Before the planes hit on September 11th, 2001, the warnings were already there. The CIA knew. The FBI knew. Reports were written. Memos were filed. Red flags were raised. One memo literally said, Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. It landed on President Bush's desk a full month before the attacks. And still, nothing connected. Different agencies refused to share information with each other. Bureaucracy beat urgency. Nearly 3,000 Americans died, not because the enemy was too strong, but because the system meant to protect them failed from the inside. These moments show that America's greatest threats have never just come from foreign enemies, outside armies, or nuclear missiles pointed from across the ocean. They came from betrayal, paranoia, fear, and failure. From within the very institutions built to keep her safe. The most dangerous enemy America ever faced always had one thing in common. It already knew her address.